Today's discussion is about classical realism. I mean, to be very specific, the realistic paintings versus, rather, I would put it this way, modern art. I mean, the art today, abstract expressionism, and surrealism, and things like that, which are not exactly copying and not exactly replicating the likeness of objects as we see. Is it relevant in today's world, in today's context of art? This is the point of discussion, because in Indian context, um, there are so many artists who are seriously pursuing realism. I mean, the realistic paintings in the classical sense. And also, many artists are quite obsessed about photorealism. So, whereas in the West, largely it has shifted towards more of a modern art forms, like Joao is there, who is a part of neutralist movement, and now shifting to something more abstract and things like that. So the question is, how much relevant or equally significant or more significant today realism is in classical sense. Okay.
First of all, I like to thank Romantica for arranging this kind of dialogues, which are really helping the art community. It's a great service,
Thank
and
you.
I see that you are more involved in creating discussions in the art field, and not looking at your whole venture as a commercial venture. Really,
Yeah.
we need platforms like this, more platforms like this, and so that we can pursue things. I think there's a good thing to have dialogues with a lot of people, including artists, new artists, senior artists, and everybody. So let me start with this. That see, how do you classify art, the art movement? We start with there is a broad categorization of any visual experience in art, which you can call it, the abstract. You can call it non-objective art, and then representational art. So representation of the things objectively is representational art. Now, if you go back to the history of art, the old history of art, we'll see that mankind started with abstraction first, actually. Though it was a kind of predictable abstraction, but in all cultures, including India, Egypt, the Greek culture, you see all the figures that they drew or the sculptures they created were kind of abstract. But that abstract and today's abstract is a little different, because today's abstract is not predictable abstract. The old abstract was predictable. There was a form which was determined with certain rules. So that's the only difference. And so in the West, the basically the representational work started uh, early Christian era, basically, and there was a need to spread the message of Jesus and Christianity. So the churches engaged artists to depict the stories that were in Bible, or the mythology stories, or whatever they are. That the whole purpose was to kind of tell the people what the story was. So they engage, artists. They commission the artists, and the earlier part of the representative art was mostly, we call it Gothic, where there were certain rules of how you put the picture together, what place the God will have, Jesus will have, or Mary will have, and the other people will have. So that was more or less like a kind of a, not a regimental, but it was laden by rules as to how you paint. And later on, in about 15th century, you can see there's a lot of things that also, but we don't have that much time to go through everything. So I'm going to just touch the broad, the points. In about 15th century, the Renaissance period that they started, the 15th and 16th century, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, you can see that they kind of reformed that art into a what you call a techniques like a geometrical perspective science. So the geometry of perspective was developed around that time, and it was so made so accurate that it was able to bring all the realism in there. The realism word is used wrongly here. Realism the meaning of realism is a little different. It's about being connected with what is happening on ground. That's the term that is used in art for realism. And then I'll come to the present realism that we are talking about. So what happened is that time uh, the techniques were developed so well, and the art was at a very high point. So that's why it is called Renaissance. So it's like rebirth of art kind of thing. And so after that period, many masters were produced. That time one of my favorites is uh, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, and there were also other artists. They created great works, their masterpieces in representational work. So after that, there were periods where the Rococo period came, like they were like deforming things and using them in the realistic way, though. And so the Rococo or Baroque period was followed by Rococo. And the Rococo period, there was a reaction to that Rococo period. And the Rococo period was replaced by what we call Neoclassicism. So Neoclassicism was what that it was going back to the Greek way of doing things, but in a new way. So that's why it is called Neoclassicism. So it was a reaction to the Rococo over decorativeness and all that. They wanted to bring some kind of format to that, some in a sober way. So let's say, for simplicity, we can say it was a sober way of doing things in a classical way. So that was called neoclassicism. And the neoclassicism was also replaced later by realism. So realism itself was a reaction because there the paintings were done on monumental about monumental things and all that, but they didn't touch the life of people. So when we call realism, it was the era about 19th century, 18th century, around 18th century. You can correct me, but around 18th century, I think the realism thing came, and 18th or 19th century, and so the artists then focused on the lives of common people. They produced representational art, which was based on objective observation, but it touched some of the emotions, like some of the problems, social issues, problems, and stuff like that. So came into effect the academic requirement in the West that the artists need to follow the rules of how you can create the best objective view of those things. So it was rather focused on the skills. So in the academia, and the critics were focused on uh, how well the painting was done technically. They were focused on that aspect. And so at that time, there was a reaction from artists, obviously, that they found it very restrictive. So that the Impressionism started around that time in the early 19th century, and so Degas was like 1820 or so. Then later on, the Impressionism led to post-Impressionism, Neo-Impressionism, and Cezanne is considered the the father of the modern art. Basically, that time the art was not like what we see today. It was not as modern as we see, but there was a feeling of going towards something different than what we are doing in the referential way. So instead of focusing on the objective view of the things, they started focusing on the subjectivity. The artist started focusing on the subjectivity. And so they at the same time, what happened is that there was a technological advancement. Like the paint was available now in tubes around that time, and so the artist was able to get out of the studio and take the tubes to outside. So they took the tubes to outside and started in impressionism. They try to catch every moment as the light changes, and later on those things of course change. But that gave rise to a thought that you don't need to really paint realistically. You don't need the realism. The realism in a different way. It's the realistic, reverential way, I would say. So the object, instead of being objective and looking at the thing from outward perspective, the artist started thinking about things which were kind of conceptual, kind of perceptions, kind of going inside. And they also thought at that time that painting itself, if the piece of painting itself is a form. So if you consider the painting as a form, two-dimensional form created by an artist, then you can understand that its purpose is not to show what is what to tell a story or tell something which you can see with eyes in an objective way. So that in that time the camera was also invented, obviously. So the camera also took a lot of things out of the representation, that you can click picture and see lots of things in the picture. So that also happened. But there was
Yeah.
a need for the artists to
Yeah.
really go beyond the objective observation and to kind of create something of their own. And that's where the modernism started. You know.
No,
Do you
but
want me to go further? Saikat?
Prakash, I pause. I request you to pause a little bit here, and then let's hear what they say about it. The point is that what you said. I have a view. When you say that, when we say that until these artists like Cezanne or Renoir or people like that, Manet, they entered the scene of art. Art was of certain kind. I mean, you're saying it was realism, and after they entered, that the Impressionists entered. I feel they did not deviate from realism really. They wanted to make it more real. What I mean is, I feel an artist always, forever, whether he does surrealism or abstract expressionism or those days, classical, that realism stuff, artists always tried to project reality. Now, these guys had their paint in their hand. They did not make the paint at home. They went out to the meadow, in the middle of the market, in the anywhere in the middle of the city, in the crowded road, and quickly painted. So they had no other option but to paint that way, because the light changed, everything changed, the weather changed. So they had to do it very quick, and that was their reality, and they tried to make it more real, because just before that, if you look at Turner, or let's say Liv Turner, let's say Constable, these are artists who painted the same scenarios, same scenes. They saw outside, went back to their gallery studio, and then finished it. They
Yes.
tried to do the same. They didn't have
For
time.
example, Degas did that.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
in studios. But see,
yeah.
what the point here was that they found that this is possible, that you can deviate from the objectivity. Let's say if you do an object drawing, then there is a methodical way to do it. with the study of light and shade and the volume and all that. Whereas
Yeah.
here they found that we can create an interesting form without getting that much into it. And also that Impressionism was afterwards replaced by Neo-Impressionism, where they
Yeah.
took
Yeah.
they played more attention to
Yeah.
the objective part of the object also. So it was a kind of a mix. It was a reaction to Impressionism. But see, that's the liberation point, that you
That's
can do
the
something different than what the representation is. And that was they were not supported by the art community or the critics or the academicians. And in fact, they had a lot of struggle, earlier. So it was seen as if that this was a freedom fight,
yeah.
So
Yes. Very
that's the
true.
thing.
In fact, anyway, and then there is another point which okay. Let me ask Joao, what is your view? I mean, about this. You are muted. Ah,
First of all, thank you for the invitation. I want to say thanks to everyone here in this room for listening to me too.
thank you.
That is a really pleasure. And I want to create something more interactive, not only with me speaking, but I want to present an idea or a
Okay.
concept.
Great.
For example, what is that?
That's a bulb, right? Light bulb.
This is a lamp, right? Lamp that makes light.
Right.
Everyone agree that this is a lamp?
Yeah.
So, in a realistic way, we all agree that this is a lamp. And in a realistic painting, or classical realistic painting, or even an hyper-realistic painting, or photorealism, everyone would paint that like a lamp, that way that I have here in my hands. But a cubism vision or perspective of this lamp, like Picasso, for example, will paint this lamp maybe like a square or some cylinder on the core, something like that. An impressionist painter will try to create the light impression of this lamp. For the other side, an expressionist painter would like to express the feelings and the emotion of this painting of this lamp in his hands, and also create the expression of the other observers or beholders of this lamp. But maybe a surrealistic painter would maybe try to put a woman naked inside on the top of this lamp with a crocodile or some insect crawling that lamp, or even some other place, creating a surrealistic painting. An abstract painter will create this lamp, maybe like Pollock, with some drippings and stains, something like that. Maybe a neo-expressionist painter with some symbolism will paint this lamp inside a head of someone, with this lamp with some lights on, and with other person at his side with inside his head with darkness. So, and head has some light with lamp, the other head is on darkness. But if there is a Duchamp, like the Dadaism or a conceptual art, he will use this lamp maybe in an empty room with a lamp on the floor with the title of the exhibition, Light Itself. So, basing on in that thought, we start with the realism, and from the realism, we expand it to other styles and deforming the real sense of the lamp. But there is a thing that the realism fails. That is, the realism only can reproduce the otherness of this lamp. The realism cannot express the frequency, the duality of the light, of the idea to create this lamp, and the other meanings of this lamp. Why? Why? Because the lamp is a not living object, right? But when I see, when I speak, when I express myself, and realistic painter, or even a hyper realistic painter, I'm sure that he will paint this image like a photo, a perfect reproduction of this moment of my face and the lamp. But if I am a living being, I am breathing, I am speaking, I am shaking, and there is the moment, because an image like a photo is already stopped. The image does not move, does not live. So the realistic are painting a dead image. So even the realism is not realism, because only can capture the moment that is stopped in time. So I don't believe in styles. We can see the contemporary art, we can see the nowadays art, like a mix of everything that is already done. We all already did something today. And the importance of the realism nowadays is to have a discussion about it, because we all must know the reality as we know this lamp. But we also will lose the reality for create something new. So we are always mixing. For example, I don't have arts education. My education right now, I am finishing my clinical psychology master. I work in a hospital at 13 years old. I'm used to human condition. And I know that I am a foreigner in this group. So my reality is not the same than yours, because our culture, our society is very different, and you all know that. But I know that we all express our reality in our paintings. I know that these realistic painters that there is inside this group, they all will express their own feelings, their own emotions, and will add something their own in their classical realistic paintings. And it's that I need to know what is a lamp for create an abstract lamp. The realism is the core, is the start, and it's important. The realism today, but it's also important the creativity that the contemporary and our own life and self can add to the art and painting today. And this is my thought, my idea about it. But it's all about perception. We all are speaking about our own lives. I know that I am the youngest, maybe the youngest artist here, and I will not discuss about arts formation or education because it's not fair when I speak about perception and psychological mechanism, or even the psychology of arts today. When someone will talk about history of arts, that I know some chronology and recognize the Illuminism as movement, but even on the pre-story, there is the cavern, the caves hearts of the, as we say, past paintings of the hunting scenes of the prehistoric man. And the paper of the art of this time was about strategy of hunting, to plan and to express the idea of the hunting, of our social behavior or community behavior. So there is always the realism on the painting, and we always have the creativity to diverge from the realism. And so I finish.
I tried to share an image. I mean, what Joao said, that realism, in that sense, in that objective sense, actually fails somewhere. That's why I shared that screen. I don't know if people could see. I try to share it again.
We saw the pipe. Yes.
This is not a pipe.
That is not a pipe.
This is Rene Margit. What is written at the bottom is, this is not a pipe. This is not a pipe. It's not real. However realistic you paint, it's not real. If it is the object which is just on focus to display, that's what my view too. Okay, a great analysis of both of you, actually very interesting. Pooja, so you can kindly speak. You said that you might want to put up a presentation, right? I shared the screen. I think you can. I permitted to you to share. Yeah, all participants. Yes, I think you can. Your voice is.
Firstly, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk and share this space with all of you. And I would like to start with the story of the pufferfish. How the pufferfish, we're not the only creatures on earth who are creative, who create something with beautiful symmetry and design. You know, pufferfish, even in the ocean, they create these beautiful nests and they attract their mates. So what is it about human art that makes it so unique? Why does it need to be preserved, and what is so important about it? So this is my short presentation, and I'd like to talk about art movements as a result of the concurring human condition and scientific inventions in that context. How we can talk of art and what makes art great in a social context. I mean, why do we remember something more than anything else? And in the context of classical realism versus art today, the transition. So firstly, like it has already been discussed, the same subject can be seen in a lot of different ways. So what is art? Is it skill, concept, narrative, aesthetics, message, scale, or all of the above, or some of the above? Or is it that it is limited, or something becomes more important at a certain point of time because of whatever's going on in the society? So firstly, I'd like to talk about the transition of the theme, where earlier on we had, themes of reverence and the celebration of divinity and self-expression, and how that slowly changed to the profane, to disgust, how we recognize disgust. We don't, just brush it under the carpet. We don't talk about it. That's what used to happen before, but now we're talking about very rebellious subjects. So there was a transition of the emphasis on technique and mastery of skill to the ephemeral conceptual pieces and the change of subject. So next, I'd like to talk about purpose. Now, initially, the purpose used to be documentation or talking about stories, or bringing down all these mythological and moral stories, and they used to complement the manuscript, and there used to be patrons. The kings used to be the patrons, the church would be the patrons, but now that has completely changed. And like you were speaking about the image, sir, it's how something that was a narrative of a story that was didactic has now become a concept, and it makes you question about what you are seeing. Is it really that? So it's more than telling you, it's not dictating, it's asking, making you question yourself. So so the tone, from a very public and social, with something which focused on social morality and politics, it changed to individual confessionism. So and themes and matters which were previously considered matters of shame, embarrassment, and ridicule, I guess they were brought to the forefront, and that is how realism to the current art today has changed a lot in subject, tone, and voice, and execution. I'd like to refer. I hope I'm not running short of time, but I'll just quickly
No,
go through
please
this.
carry on. No, it's okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have time.
I'd like to start from prehistory, where I guess the first work of art was found in Altamira, and what we celebrate the most about it is how humans, mere animals at that time, hominids, how they were able to perceive and develop high eye-hand coordination and pigment creation and technique. And that time, I guess, mastery of skill was very important and celebrated. So we can see all these charcoal drawings on the cave, and they're beautifully executed. Now, as far as now, we shift to the ancient civilization, where there was a lot more artifacts, and you had all these linear narratives, two-dimensional narratives of human figures in their daily life, and the common man was mostly missing, although you had people like slaves, and there were narratives of religion, culture, and it's amazing that these works of art today document so much information. They're so rich in information, and we can just refer to them for any knowledge about the past. So these narratives are very lengthy, and they were on monuments. And then with medieval art, this is, I guess, where realism is totally, beginning to take over, and the blending of shades is starting. And but the themes, as we can see, it's still mythological and biblical, and it is still flat, because it is more like a document on architecture rather than a form of human expression. So I'd quickly like to go to the 15th century and talk about the impact of science on art, how the studies that Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci did, and their study of anatomy and scientific understanding of the construction and the biology of human body, it was something new, moving away from everything in the past, you had these stories which were told to you. You were supposed to believe them. Here you were made to rebel and understand and see from your point of view. There were various perspectives. I guess that is something new. And even Nicholas Copernicus, I guess he somehow revolutionized and revolutionized and affected people a lot, the way they thought, because of his heliocentric theories. And people started to think differently, and suddenly light was a big focus. Even in the 16th century, now you have realism in full swing, and scientific inquiry and understanding the nature of light, perception, perspective, and depth. It becomes really important in Caravaggio with his creation of depth and shade. I guess this is perhaps the height of classical realism. And as you can see, there is this point of focus in this painting, which is not there before. All the narratives are very flat and equally detailed, but here the point of focus is created, and quite possibly we can say that the works of Galileo Galilei, he had invented the telescope, and it's possible that focus, a focal point, became a major something new in art. So yeah, I guess this is what is new in 16th century art, a point of focus. Then you had these highly detailed Baroque paintings which celebrated emotion and drama, and they were very sensual. So there was detail and there was emotion, and there was realism. But they were still stories. All of these were still stories. And so far, we have not seen any personal expressions. So even with Isaac Newton, we have the discovery of motion and gravity, and he was carrying forward the works of Galileo Galilei. And I guess light and motion were still a big deal here. And both mastery and artistic expression were of equal importance here. So in the 18th century, again, like Sir pointed out, neoclassicist art and Rococo architecture, everything had just become so exuberant and opulent. And you had thinkers like Immanuel Kant and Goethe, who really who questioned the opulence and the indulgence. And this was the beginning of the French Revolution. And it's quite possible that the exuberance of this time, which was reflected in the Rococo paintings, changed what was to come. And the next century brought something completely different, Impressionism. And of all the paintings, I really wanted to go for the Potato Eaters, because it really departed from all these royal and biblical themes. You have common people sitting at a table and eating. So, and most importantly, Karl Marx with his book and his theories had impacted the culture. And I think one of the most unique things about Impressionism is the celebration of every brushstroke. And that is what, Karl Marx was all about. Celebration of every individual, no matter how small. So I guess that is what makes Impressionism and the works of Van Gogh so phenomenal, because he was an echo of the time. So even with Tesla coming in and lifestyle changing, I mean, I guess everything which happens in the next century is his doing. So yeah, and yes, of course, Nietzsche, he questioned the human condition. He explored the nature of self, and this was the beginnings of psychology, where people started questioning what the truth is, how they perceive the world, and all of that. So this was the beginning of psychology. So in the 20th century, really, I mean, so much happened that I could not put it in, but I chose to go with Guernica, because And so basically, I guess the hallmark of this century is science and the psychology, basically psychology, and the recognition and exploration of the subconscious that we see in surrealist works of Dali, and a lot of futurism and modernism and geometry, abstraction. And I guess the effect that war had on art was that people started becoming very minimalistic. And even with the, we don't talk about Chanel, but with the excesses of the time, when you had Art Nouveau and with Chanel coming in, everything started becoming really streamlined. And that was the beginning of architecture becoming very clean. And I guess, when the World War ravaged countries all over the world and stripped them to bare minimum, that is when, we started thinking about art in a very simplistic way. And even the work of Einstein and his theory of relativity and his understanding of space-time, we started, we changed the way how we see the world. So other notable people were Freud, who became a household name, and Ayn Rand with her objectivism, and how she spoke about honesty and the unfettered adherence to minimalism and pragmatism, which was something that artists of that time were. It reflected in the works of artists of all the artists of that time. And even Sylvia Plath with her Confessionism, she sort of motivated a lot of artists to express their inner feelings. And that's where abstract expressionism rose. Even people like Mark Rothko and let's say Franz Klein, they had these really expressive paintings. And here I've mentioned Kandinsky's composition number 7, because this is something which was never seen before. He had synesthesia, and he saw music like colors. So art had never been like this before. So from classical realism coming to this point where we recognize something which cannot be seen can be expressed in color. How do we get to that? And so I guess now we come to the 21st century and how much it has changed. And now it's all about relational art with mixed media. And now, and I forgot to talk about photography, but yeah, now filmmaking is a big deal, and there's street fashion. Like there was couture in a big deal in the 20th century. Now in the 21st century, you have street graffitis, then music videos, street fashion, and all of that. So even the Met Gala now, it's a big deal. I mean, we all wait and watch. It's not about looking pretty. It's about the statement you're making. So now three-dimensional installations, which are really, immersive and overwhelming. And you have actually, there's quite a shift from the church to all these business magnates kind of influencing what is being created today. You have Steve Jobs, you have Mark Zuckerberg, you have Elon Musk. Steve Jobs, he wants his products to be works of art. He's like particular about 1 mm here and there, and he's not going to go with the design. With Mark Zuckerberg, I don't know how we can define art anymore, because everybody is making art. There are memes everywhere, and it means so many things. So it's a visual entertainment for the masses. It makes you laugh. That is art. So even with Elon Musk, how he is now 3D printing machine parts and buying NFTs, he is changing the face of both science and art, and creativity is being pushed to the next level. We don't know what's next, but definitely sustainability is something which is coming up. And it's possible that with all this really interactive, graphic, relational, immersive works coming in, what's next could be something, we don't know. It could be something related to sustainability or life on Mars anything. So that's for the future. That's all I have for today.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Actually,
It was
in fact,
very enlightening and
Yeah.
very immersive, like you had said. I enjoyed it a lot.
Thank you. Not such a good speaker. I was a little nervous.
You know, you have been very clear, and your way of presentation was wonderful, and like it was immersive, as you have mentioned. And all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
in fact, I would be glad to have a copy of the presentation.
That would be
Sure,
wonderful.
I'm writing for you too.
Yes,
So-
the next generation would be something like, you know, we are getting coffee from three-dimensional arena somewhere. Like, you know, we just put our hand and coffee is ready in front of
Yeah,
us.
you never
That's
know.
the
We don't know
thing
what's
happening.
Okay. No, it was great actually. From a very different, from so many diverse angles you have.
Like all Prakash ji and Joao and Pooja, you have spoken very nicely and explained so much, so very well. I missed some of the points which I could understand very clearly today. There was something like I was having some missing points in my mind, and I think some of my thoughts have been cleared about some things.
So it's you, Priya ji. It's
very
you.
informative. All very
Your, it's your turn now.
my turn. I don't know. They have spoken everything and explained it so very well and nicely.
No, the question remains. Everyone is
Yeah,
speaking, but
yes,
question
yes, yes.
remains.
So art today, see, basically art is a form that is like, you know, we need to communicate somewhere through our creativity. Basically, we are getting down to the base. It is something like, you know, we want to communicate some or the other way through our creativity. Here, creativity is the most important aspect of presentation. People like in history, they had some thoughts and they were influenced by the society. The times also matter. The time, like you are living in 18th century, what is happening around you, that is influencing you. And then you are presenting your art using every information that you are getting. So here, right now, our art has shifted from that to some like formless expression more. By formless expression, I feel that, like, you know, we are bombarded with so many things from the past, from the future, from the present, that, like, you know, we are trying to evolve ourselves. Where do we belong exactly? So here, like if you say, like so many ways of expression, some are following the past, some are like, you know, they consider the masters their teachers, and they still, the 16th century method is followed. Some have taken the impressionist style. So everything is going on, like, you know, everything is flowing. People are trying to evolve some new styles, and somewhere something clicks for them, that becomes, maybe it will be a cliche for them. So like that, we are all struggling with our creative thoughts and with the influences that is happening in our society. So many changes have happened, like Pooja has mentioned, that, like, you know, we are constantly, the brain functions accordingly, like, you know, the information that is surrounding us. Finally, so the art today, what exactly is happening is that, like, you know, it is a representation of some sort of confusion, I can say. So we are confused somewhere, and that confusion is also creating that kind of productivity. I've seen so much of art, like, you know, they'll use some colors and they'll say, throw something and say, okay, this is a representational art, this is called abstract. And, you know, it is coming directly from my mind. So now if you see, there are so many abstract expressions which are almost similar. Why is that happening? Why the abstract paintings are almost similar? So here, like, you know, I feel that many of the minds are working in a similar manner. the information that is given to us is stopping our creativity. Somewhere it is limiting us, our expressions. So to enhance our creativity, it is not just living in the past or just living in future. It is like, you have to find yourself, like, what is surrounding you. You have to understand the life, the basic, the source of life. When you understand the source of life, or when you understand why we are existing, maybe I feel that way. Why we are existing? Perhaps we would be connecting to the nature, and perhaps, like, the art today, which is like, some form which is shapeless. Sometimes this is modern art, they say, and sometimes, like, all this is like, it will be clear, like we would be knowing where exactly we are standing. Maybe that is the point, like, we have to remove some of the confusions. We have to control the, like, so much of information that is coming towards us. Perhaps we have to evolve, but, like, we have to bring our instincts outside. We have to be ourselves and then paint. Maybe perhaps then the art today would be like, maybe people will be writing history about it.
So you mean that what I feel somewhere that from realism, when it ventured through, let's say, impressionism to expressionism, surrealism, abstract expressionism, etc., it left the form. I mean, the likeness, the objects as we see. So it kind of art was set free from the bond of the usual objects around us. And you mean that freedom is dangerous? It may lead to chaos, and it is little bit leading to chaos too. That's what you are trying to say. That plenty of abstract expressions, but all may not be really art. Some chaotic output could be. Okay. Samipendu. Yeah,
May
please.
I add to what Priyaji said? First of all, it was very illuminating talk. The way what you said, Priyaji, makes a lot of sense, and there's a lot of confusion going on. That is very, very true. And I want to add to this some clarification of what Saikat just said. Is see, after the Dadaism movement, the things became more conceptual. There was like a physical work involved before, like something to do on the canvas of paper or whatever. So there was a work involved, and the artists were trained to paint those things there. Now, when you talk about a concept, the concept doesn't need an object. The conceptualization says that this is just an idea. The idea is more important. So the idea may be important, but I don't know if you can call it art or not. It's a visual. Is there a visual experience in it? And the borders are very undefined. Like, when you say art or no art, it's very difficult to say that this is non-art, because if you take one side, you say, well, what we do is art because we paint actually, whether it is digital or with brushes or whatever we paint. And the conceptualists could say, no, I just put an idea here. Like what Buckham did was putting the toilet there was a sensation to me. As an artist, I feel it was just a sensational act that he did. That doesn't involve any art there. He got a toilet, put his signature on it, and he exhibited that. And so, but so on one hand, we don't need to say that we need to restrict anybody. We cannot be moralist. We cannot say that you do this or you don't do this. People can do anything that they like. But what will sustain more is something which has substance. Like if you make a sensation, it will remain there for a few days, basically. And lots of art moments like this will vanish very quickly. So So it is up to the artist to decide whether he needs to do something which is sustainable or not.
Yeah.
Actually, history has taught us everything. It has given us the basics of like what we need to know to construct a painting. Maybe the geometrical aspect we have learned. We have learned the colors usage, the use of light and time, and now we will be maybe like it has gone to 3D to 4D. Now fifth dimension, and so many dimensions are coming on, and perhaps like at the end of the day, like Pooja had said, like what future might be, what kind of like maybe we will be presenting a white canvas and say this is a painting. So
It has already happened.
yeah,
It has happened already.
It is
Happened
already
already.
happened.
White on white.
Yeah.
People actually also lack time also. The pressures of the society or the pressures of the economy that are pushing them, like so for the you can say the rat race or the money race. There is a monetary aspect that business tycoons are growing. Some Elon Musk is there, Mark Zuckerberg is there. There are parents also. They'll say, why you are not becoming like them? There are parents who are saying, like, if you sit and say that I want to paint, then you'll say, who is going to provide you the money? And if your painting is not going to get sold, you are nowhere. So you have to complete your studies and all that. That technically, like, that aspect is also pressurizing our society now. We are being pushed, that is limiting our creativity. So basically, like, to enhance our creative process, we have to do all those things which help us creating better paintings. That creativity has to emerge more powerful than anything else surrounding us. So that
Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay,
I think there is one more aspect that it's a kind of an artist does not stop with one painting. He
that's
continues
true.
doing it. So if he picks something which has a dead end, then where does he go from there? That's the main this thing. Like when you talk about field paintings, to me they lead to dead ends. Like you become very repetitive very soon. Very quickly you can become very repetitive. So
Right.
does that satisfy the receptor? I'm not sure about that. And some people may not like my statement, but that's what I believe. That the abstraction, pure abstraction, also is a dead end thing. Like if you go into too much abstraction, very very pure abstraction, then it's going to become repetitive. Like you said, that you are seeing the repetition. So I think that's the thing, that the abstraction itself has that limitation basically.
Let us hear what Samipendu has to say. Samipendu, can you unmute or up? Okay.
বলতে তো চাচ্ছি অনেক কিছু, একটুখানি কমিউনিকেশনের একটুখানি প্রবলেম হতে পারে, ওটাই।
No.
আমি একটুখানি এক্সপ্লেন করি, আপনি যদি একটুখানি
হিন্দিতে করো।
হিন্দিতে না?
You speak in Hindi, absolutely no problem. Joao, I'll translate it for you. Okay. Only Joao may not be able to follow when you speak. Joao is from Portugal. He understands the English but not Hindi. So please carry on. What you were trying to say. He seems to be he spoke in Bengali in the beginning, so you people didn't get. He said that he has some very disputable view. So he is hesitant to spell out or not. You speak up, please.
So we are here to listen to you. Yeah.
मतलब एज ए न्यू कॉमर्स, मतलब कंटेम्पोररी आर्टिस्ट के हिसाब से मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि प्रैक्टिशनर कि हम लोगों को एक तरफ में जाके, मतलब वो थर्ड ईयर या फोर्थ ईयर के जो बीच में होता है, हम लोगों को एक तो प्रेशर आता है ऊपर से कि तुम क्या करना चाहते हो, तुमको मतलब तुमको बनाना क्या है। वो हम लोगों को थोड़ा पीछे जाके हम लोगों को खुद से पूछना चाहिए कि एक्चुअली मतलब हम क्या चाहते हैं। একটা কথা, ছোট কথা বলছি, আমাদের এখানে প্রবাদ বাক্য আছে, ভুল আঁকলে কি পুলিশ ধরে না। मतलब अगर हम गलती से भी कुछ गलत पेंट कर दिए तो हम लोग को पुलिस नहीं उठाएगा, ठीक है। लेकिन वही जगह मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि हम लोग का 5 स्टूडेंट है हम लोगों का कॉलेज में, तो 5 लोगों का 5 व्यू है, सभी लोगों का अलग अलग व्यू है, सभी लोगों का अलग स्किल है। किसी का कहीं पे वो कॉन्टेम्पोररी कॉम्पोजिशन सेंस बहुत स्ट्रांग है, थोड़ा रियलिस्टिक फोटो रियलिज्म मुझको ज्यादा पसंद आता है। तो कहीं कहीं में सब लोगों का थोड़ा करके अलग अलग हो जाता है। लेकिन हम लोग शुरू में एकदम मतलब स्टार्टिंग में हम लोग रियलिज्म से शुरू करते हैं। लेकिन मेरा पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से है थोड़ा कि हम लोग जब हड़प्पा मोहनजोदारो जब केव पेंटिंग वगैरह होता था, तभी वहां पे वॉल में भी एब्स्ट्रैक्ट पेंटिंग का ही मतलब जो एब्स्ट्रैक्ट आर्ट सब कुछ एब्स्ट्रैक्ट ही था। वहां पे थोड़ा क्यूबिज्म का थोड़ा पैटर्न था, एक्सप्रेशन नहीं था वहां पे। वही थोड़ा करके हम लोग डेवलप होते यही रियलिज्म पे आए। फिर हम लोग घूम के फिर ही वापस जा रहे हैं कि इससे थोड़ा निकल के कुछ और करें। तो हम लोगों को कुछ वो 3rd ईयर और 4th ईयर के बीच में थोड़ा वो कंफ्यूजन हो जाता है कि हम लोग करे तो करे क्या।
That's a very interesting thing you are saying. Yeah, please बोलिए।
वही बोल रहा था कि मतलब हम लोग एक दौर से गुजरे, जो एकदम शुरू से हम लोग एब्स्ट्रैक्ट में आए, फिर थोड़ा उसको डेवलपिंग किया, उसमें थोड़ा रियलिस्टिक फॉर्म घुसाया, थोड़ा हाथ पैर को थोड़ा चेंज किया, फिर उसके बाद उसमें एक्सप्रेशन घुसाया, उसके बाद हम लोग उनको कलर में कन्वर्ट किया। पहले तो एक ही फॉर्मेट में वो मोनोक्रोम जैसा थोड़ा कलर पैटर्न में सब कुछ रखते थे, अभी उसको थोड़ा रियलिस्टिक में लाए, थोड़ा करके फिर हम क्लासिकल रियलिज्म में पहुंच गए। उसके बाद हम लोग फिर से वही दौर मतलब चल के फिर वापस वो थोड़ा उन लोगों को भी वो तोड़ रहे हैं अभी हम। वही पॉट को मतलब बनाए हम लोग खुद से हाथ से, अभी उसी पॉट को हम तोड़ के थोड़ा डिफरेंट करके हम लोग उसमें से मजा लेते हैं। अभी एक बात में दिक्कत हो जाता है कि हम लोगों को क्या मैं सोच रहा हूँ, मतलब मेरा पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू क्या है वो मैं दूसरे लोगों को मतलब समझाने में नहीं पाता हूँ। मतलब वही जगह में थोड़ा दिक्कत होता है। जैसे मेरे माँ को फर्स्ट मैं मेरा माँ को समझाना चाहता हूँ कि वो समझिए थोड़ा, आप ऐसे देख रहे थे तो आप थोड़ा घुमा के देखिए। अभी वही मम्मी को तो समझ में नहीं आता है, जब हम समझाते हैं कि ये देखो ये हुआ पहले, ये बीच में, फिर लास्ट में हम आके इसको वो पहले वाला पैटर्न ही हम लोग वापस कर रहे हैं, तभी मम्मी को थोड़ा करके समझ में आता है। तो वही जगह है, मतलब हम जब 3rd ईयर और 4th ईयर के बीच में जब गुजरे कि हम लोग का थोड़ा मतलब पूरा क्लास का हम लोगों का थोड़ा माइंड एकदम कंफ्यूज हो गया था हम लोग को कि हम लोग को करना है तो क्या करना है। मतलब सभी का अलग चॉइस रहता है कि हम ऐसा करेंगे हम वैसा करेंगे। हाँ वो दौर गुजर गया, अभी हम लोग सब निकल के थोड़ा एकदम 5 आदमी का 5 अलग अलग पैटर्न, सभी का अलग अलग स्टाइल है, सभी लोगों का फॉर्मेट भी अलग है।
Yes, I do one thing. Just I wanted to share something when he is speaking. You will be curious to see. Here you see, if you can, yeah. See, this is the kind of painting he does. He is standing next to his painting. So, I don't know, it's just painting a mango like a mango, or it's much more than that actually. It's way more than that. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, we can see it. I think I can see it. I can comment on it that his painting is really good. He's doing a good job. I think the expression part, possibly, is not very communicative. But I get his point that in the academics, basically some confusions are started by because they are young students are not exposed to all the world ideas basically. But I think as he gets older, he will sort out the confusion, and he will choose for himself what to do. What he's doing is really good, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's a realism. That's a realism. It's not just a representation, but that is what we call realism, which is going to the basics of the life, basically. So he's showing something is an expression and expressing a social condition, basically, or a condition which exists around him, basically. So I think that's the true realism. It's not just a representation.
Yeah. Well, for Joao, I'll just summarize a bit with something very interesting he said. Joao might not have been able to follow exactly what he said because it was in Hindi. He says that he is younger than you two. I mean, he probably Somipendu, I think you are 2 or 3 years
22.
out of art college. I think.
Uh,
ये लास्ट ईयर मतलब बीए
Okay.
अभी कंप्लीट
Okay, he is just fresh graduate from art college. Okay, he just did his graduation in fine arts. Now, what he says is that when they study, I mean, in fact, it's the same for us. I mean, it is same for the person like me. I am not with a formally educated background in art. I think Joao too is not. Neither Mr. Ambegaonkar. We are largely not. Now, but we see the same thing as we look at history, that the very early artworks, even in Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, the kind of scribbles or whatever, scrolls, they rather resemble abstract or expressionism or today's modern way of depiction, not acute realism. And it begins from there. Even somebody shared, Pooja shared in one of her slides that bull, I think bull, the Altamira cave. That is not die-hard realism. That was kind of yeah, abstract. Now, starting from abstract, we reached the pinnacle of realism, so-called realism, as you see, and from there we are going back to again abstract. Now, as a student, when he studies in art college, he says that they at some point near the end they get puzzled. What we achieved through so many years, now what? We are going back again. How is it?
One clarification, Saikat ji.
Yeah, is Joe is
See yeah. Basically,
Joe,
see the abstraction that time in the ancient time. Anything that you paint is an abstraction by definition. Like even if you have a realistic, very very real painting, it's not a real thing. Like you said, it's not a pipe. So it's an abstraction, but how much is the derivation there? That is the point. That the abstractions are different. Is a derivation of abstraction that the humankind, with the tools that they had, they were able to draw the outlines of the things, and use the certain whatever charcoal or whatever mediums they had at that time, 30,000, 40,000 years ago. The cave paintings have that. But that was an abstraction, in a representation. Abstraction there, the meaning says representation of an idea. So that is the best that they can do at that time. They may be trying to do the real painting, but the means were such that they were settling on a figure, basically. Today, the abstraction has gone in a very, very different level. The abstraction can be derivational abstraction. In art language, actually, art lingo, they call abstraction as derivational. When it comes from subconscious, it's different. Like, in my painting, you'll see the abstraction is not derivational. Some of it is, but most of it comes from a subconscious. So there are lots of artists, they have done this and they're doing it. That the abstract itself is a concept, become a concept. Now, how much conceptual you want to be and how much physical you want to be, that's the issue here. I don't know if that answers this question.
yeah, I mean, he just expresses that this is what they go through. But somebody wanted to say something, but
I think also it's about basically having two kinds of art. One is having a story to tell, and the other is how it makes you feel. And especially with abstract art, what you see is that there are, universal symbols, which, again, going back to psychology, which kind of are common to everyone. So when you see that in abstract art, it kind of makes you feel something or reminds you of something which is universal to everyone.
That's
Very,
right.
very true.
That's
In
true.
fact, that's the methodology I give in my explanation when somebody asks me about my painting. Is that I use those symbols, which kind of once you say how the expression is formed, is that you put something on the painting, there is a symbol. The symbol may be not a figure. It could be just a shade, color, texture, combination, composition that becomes a symbolic link with the observer's mind. In the observer's mind, it creates an image or some kind of impact, a response, and that's where the expression starts. So that's the method. You describe it very correctly.
Yeah.
That's the way the non-derivational abstract works. Derivational abstracts mean that you have a human figure, and you kind of you say that okay, this is a human, and then you put a figure there. A human figure is very easy, right? For example, people have seen humans all over. So even if you use a matchstick and then put a single matchstick like your shaft, and then two legs, two hands, one head, and ask somebody what is this, you will say it's a human figure. So humans have that kind of programming their mind to see the things that way, and it is universal, like you said. That is very, very correctly said.
Can
Thank you
I
very
try
much.
Yes.
something?
I feel the artist wants to communicate through his painting, and maybe that is the most important aspect right now for him, how he can communicate with the viewer. Perhaps his mother, as he said that my mother, I want to explain her, this is my painting, and I want to explain this is this is the parts that I have divided into, and I'm expressing that part. So here the communication is what he is struggling to, he wants to communicate through his painting, and perhaps that is what is the confusion right now, how what the thought which he wants to communicate to his painting, that he is struggling to express, or maybe that is the uh, thing that is he is trying.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I shared the screen. You can see, right? I shared the screen because what you said, I mean, Priya said, Pooja said exactly that it conveys a feeling. And, when we were, I'll tell you, this is a painting by Joao. This is a painting by Joao. Now, when we were uploading this on our platform, I don't know, every time I saw this, it I didn't see the name of the painting. I had a feeling of, kind of and thirsty. It's something sweet, orange juice, maybe cold orange juice, sweet, a little sour, and an extreme taste in the mouth. And then I realized the name of the painting is Tropical Vibe. Such a perfect way of depiction, which communicated the entire feel just through the painting. So yeah, abstract. I mean, this is so much real. I would say this is so much real. And there was, I don't have it at my fingertip. There was a painting of Prakash ji, ant probably, right? Ant,
And yeah,
ants, right? Okay, it is not with me. Otherwise, I'd have shared. If you see that, you immediately get that kind of that feeling. Actually, percolates that feeling. However, now let us just summarize quickly. We don't have an answer. Actually, I tell you, in my view, I mean, this is my personal feeling. I feel it doesn't make much sense in doing, copying objects as we see around us, exactly copying them as they look like. Because, and I don't think that's reality either, because the face always doesn't tell the reality of the person either. If you paint a person or take a photograph, photographs are pretty misleading. Otherwise, if photographs give truth, then probably social media is the real representation of life of people, which it is not. So the skin really doesn't give a true impression. And today, the photo, you call it photorealism or realism, that captures the outwardly expression, not the inner truth. As it gets inner, it gets more and more complex. So and then camera is there for that. That's what my feel is. But in India, there are so many artists are ferociously doing realism, pursuing realism in that classical form. So no clear view emerges from you people still. What do you feel? I mean, does it make sense going on pursuing that exactly? For instance, I mention a little. If you see Priya's landscapes, they are different. They are not exactly as you see. But just let me quickly share one if I can. Um, but if it is the same, then how does it make a difference between? I share one here.
Trying to do something like, I'm trying with different colors and experimenting.
Well, I love your paintings, Priyaji.
You see,
They're really beautiful.
Thanks a lot. Thank
see,
you.
it's different. It's not that you cannot take a picture like that. You cannot take a photograph like that. So it makes sense painting this. That's what my view is. What do you people feel? I mean, does it make sense doing photorealism in today's world? Maybe it sells. I don't know. It may sell that kind of stuff.
Actually,
Yeah,
I think people, I'll tell you something like, I met my aunt a year ago or 2 years ago. She saw my paintings and she said that, like, you should paint like Raja Ravi Verma. Your paintings, she was very, because she's my closest aunt, so she can tell anything what she likes and all. She said that, like, your painting, okay, it's good, you have skill and all, so you should try to paint like Raja Ravi Verma. So what is this sentence meaning in the present context? I would like to ask everyone. What?
can I
would
say
say,
something on this? Yeah, I know I'm talking too much, but I can remember back here. Ravi Verma was the first one to kind of do referential work. I won't say it's realism. Raja Ravi Verma may be revered by Indians, but not so much around the world. If you go to Louvre and you look at the paintings of the other artists, not even masters, but there's so many artists. There's thousands of, like, probably 100,000 paintings in Louvre that you get kind of dizzy after a while. But they are those paintings may be much better than Ravi Verma's paintings also. I will tell you, because
Yes.
they have a lot of real realism in there. In Ravi Verma's paintings, he used one of the things that the problem he had was he had a great skills, and he was still a master, I would say. But he used theatrical backgrounds, because I don't think he had seen those kind of places like in Shakuntal. I think he could have gone and kind of imagine what kind of architecture was there at that time, what kind of surroundings were, but he did not. He just used what you see in drama, like in the Bengali or Marathi drama, they used to have those kind of settings. So he kind of used that. So that's one of the things. But see what is happening is about the realistic thing. I'm talking about representational, not realism. Representation is taught in schools, in all art schools. representation is taught, and there is an academician that they are focusing on the skills. So the skills are necessary, but skills are not art. So that's the problem. That as Saikat, you are saying that why there are so many people still pursuing representational work is because it is taught in the schools. If you talk to Mr.
Um,
Bolte, he has a big problem with the art schools. That it's not giving way to creativity, basically.
Prakash, I disagree with you because you see the artist in today's artist. I mean, I can give you a dozen examples. I just show you right now. You say Ravi Verma, no? I'll not name the artist, but just to give you an idea. What less than Ravi Verma? Tell me. Skills, mind-blowing skill. I can show you a dozen like that. It's painted. This kind of paintings are painted by one of our artists. He paints so many very similar kinds. There are at least more than a dozen artists doing like this, and they are not taught in any school. They are just doing it like that. The question is,
But
I
it's
feel
it's
they
the
are.
effect of academia. See, that's the prevailing thing, that you do what is taught in this art schools. So they must have friends, artists, and also these are kind of a copying things, like like something that we have painted, that we just saw painting. It's probably kind of a copy or maybe a derivation of a copy.
Yeah,
So that is very easy to do. There is a skill required, but it doesn't become a creation.
exactly.
I think the primary function and importance of classical realism has ended. What
Yes.
it had functionally started for is to probably preserve the photographs, the portraits of
Right.
kings, queens, all of that. But now, with photography coming in, I had mentioned it in the presentation, but I forgot to talk about it, that with photography coming in, we don't need it anymore. It looks good, it looks beautiful, and it may be a beautiful narrative for something. It may be a story, like Samipendu, the drawing, the painting that he showed. It was a beautiful narrative. You can look at it and think of a story. But functionally speaking, in today's society,
Doesn't offer
realism is
nothing.
not a requirement. Sorry.
Today, the photorealism does not offer nothing new.
Yeah.
Is that what
It
you
doesn't
mean?
offer anything new. Yes, that's right.
There is a difference, though. The representation does not mean just the skills. Like, if you really look at the work of masters, see, because we are seeing too many paintings which are calendar grade. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if you want to do a real representational work, you have to work really hard. It's a lifetime, work is involved in it. If you look at Rembrandt's paintings, the way that he has used the light and this is phenomenal.
True.
So the
Maybe
representational thing, there are masters and there are non-masters and there are just copiers. So we need to separate them. I think representational work, there is a lot of master work has been
there
already
is
done.
another
Hello.
I would say that there is maybe, like, people are able to maybe people are able to easily communicate with such people who are presenting them semi-realistic or realistic kind of artwork. They can associate easily with the painting. Perhaps they are able to easily understand what the artist is presenting them. So I feel in our society, I don't know about the Western society, but in India, still people prefer art. I would say they would love to hand artworks which are traditional, which are figurative, and somewhat, like, they can associate with easily. Like, somebody asks them, okay, this is a beautiful landscape. Wow, okay, yeah. So and so, they don't know about the artist. Okay, this artwork is very good. And okay, this is a Kerala mural. Oh, wow. There's so many copy artists, like, they're presenting the same art form in different manner. They're not even changing the colors. They're not even experimenting with anything. They just copy and then just reproduce them. So reproductive, like, I would say that these are like a factory machine kind of artwork is also going on. Some people have become like machines who are just painting the murals. And some people will be doing only the traditional tribal art. And so there is nothing new coming up. Like, even in the figurative art, you can see Radha Krishna. So everything is becoming repetitive. So nobody is trying to.
I totally agree with you. I think Saikat ji has also written a good article recently on that.
And at the end of the point, suppose some creative artist is there, like suppose you want to have some creative thought and you want to represent it on your canvas and nobody is understanding it, then you say, okay, you don't understand whatever we have presented to you. Then so there lies a confusion. Like, suppose even if I have a very great desire to paint something like, out of the league, and maybe people are not able to understand it completely, or I know that in the back of my mind that, people, if really I sit and paint something, nobody is going to understand my art and all. So at such points, like, you are confused what you have to paint, because, you're surrounded by a society of copy artists.
Absolutely.
So
the original gets lost in the duplicate, actually.
Yes.
Anyway, we end this discussion. Today's discussion had been very invigorating. It was really good, though there is not much of audience. The first time it was so rewarding. No, but when you say this mass production, I tell you, I swear, Benaras Ghat is a grand example. The first painting I saw Benaras Ghat, I was overwhelmed. Wow, what a beautiful thing has been done. Then the second one, then the third one, then endless Benaras Ghat. Then I asked one of those artists that it's nice, but why do you do Benaras Ghat? No, I think I have to visit Benaras sometime. I think I have to visit Benaras sometime. So
the point is, we don't reward originality. We're just, yeah.
No, those things are there in all societies. It's not just in India. There are all societies. They have these problems, issues. That people, first of all, abstraction and the expressionism. A lot of those things are very difficult to understand. Things coming from subconscious and all those are difficult to understand, communicate. Expressions are difficult to understand for common person. Like in India, people understand music very well. And Indians, like you said, that we are doing realistic paintings, representative paintings. If you look at our Indian music, the classical music is completely abstract. It's not, there is nothing, no representational reality in there. So we have accepted that, because that's kind of accepted. Everybody accepts Indian classical music as one of the top best music in the world. Okay, but when it comes to visual art, people have not accepted the abstract. For them, lots of people just reject it. First, when they look at something and they will say, okay, what is this? Is it a dog or a cat? That's the problem. So it is going beyond that and trying to communicate something different, like Priya said, that we want to communicate, we want to express ourselves. And that's what the artists actually want to do. The markets sometimes, mislead the artist in believing that, the copy can sell. So, and they have to survive also. So I cannot blame them 100%. Though the society has to change, basically. The society needs to change and understand the true sense of art.
Perhaps it's going to happen. Just before we end, Divyani, would you like to say something? Divyani is had been painting. I know from Joao, we have some paintings of Divyani on our platform also. She is deeply into abstract, guided by Joao, and doing a very good job, I guess. So would you like to say something?
Well, thank you so much. And this was a sort of academic philanthropy being organized by Romantica, and I'm so glad that I got an opportunity to be to listen to all of you. Well, I'm not. I've not learned art from any fine art colleges or anything, but I like painting. And this discussion, I found that definitely there is confusion, and confusion is expected because when this art came up, the origin is from realism, but there is an evolution which takes place, and every evolution has some confusion aspects in it. Now, that depends on how strong this evolutionary species is to survive in the surroundings. Like maybe initially when the realism was at its peak, or the classical art was at its peak, um, the intensity of expression may not have been that strong, which now I feel is becoming more strong, the intensity of expression. And regarding the confusion aspect, because a lot of people are having the similar sort of art, as Priya Ma'am said, that there are similarities in the abstract forms, very much similar. I think it depends on how you want to express, and a lot of people try to impress rather than expressing it. So if we go into the impressionable aspect, impressing someone, it's not originality. It doesn't stay original. But if we want to express, it would definitely stay original, because every person psychologically, physiologically, biologically expresses in a different way from another person. So there has to be some difference if we find happiness in expressing rather than, I always say, rather than impressing. So I think it's about what makes you happy, whether telling something makes you happy, or feeling or expressing or feeling the thing makes you happy. It's about happiness rather than anything else. So both the things have its own level of stuff. There can be people who are very happy painting realism. There are people who can be very happy painting abstract. It's about happiness. What makes you happy? That's what I feel. I mean, it's very amateur talk, but that's what I feel.
Very well said. Very well said.
Very well
Yeah.
said. Very well said.
Very well said. Yeah.
And
Wonderfully
it's coming
said.
from your heart.
Yeah.
Because,
Whether you want to impress or you want to express. Yeah.
Because I don't know much of the technicalities of art. I just paint. I love colors, and I found that it gives a lot of happiness when you express what you want to in a form you want to.
Great. So I think we conclude today here. It was a
Can we
wonderful
play a game? Can we play a
Pardon?
game?
Yes.
Can we play a game? So I want to make a game with you all. I
Please,
hope
please,
that
please.
you all participate in that game. A little example, because I like examples, I like analogies, and analogies and examples everyone understands. There is no incapacity for that. So suggest a title for my painting. You can all suggest a title.
We can't
for
see it
this
clearly.
painting. What?
Just a minute. I'll make it bigger. I'll remove the other pins.
So just a title. I want to do, you all say a title for this painting.
Seems like a persecution.
Storm.
I see a painter painting.
I don't care what you see. I want a title for that.
Persecution.
An artist, maybe.
I just want a title that someone say a title and give a title to this painting. I don't care.
I just say persecution.
Storm.
The title has to come from you, because it's in your mind. So we can't give you the title.
Prakash, don't be that way. Say a title for this painting. Don't ruin the game.
Can you put it steady? Can you keep it steady? Let me see it properly. I haven't seen it properly.
You don't see it properly. What you need more? That I get
You can
closer.
just pull it back.
Closer.
Pull it back. Not closer, back.
That's right, Joe. Don't move it. Keep it.
For me, it's persecution.
Yeah. Now we can see it. We can see it.
A title for this painting.
I gave the title Storm. Now others.
Okay,
I
I would
feel
say
there is an artist sitting and perhaps painting. I see like an object that's relaxing and painting.
Yeah, but her name.
Artist.
Artist. Okay.
My name, Joe, is Evolution.
Evolution, artist, storm,
Persecution.
contribution. Is that
No. Persecution.
Persecution.
Prosecution.
Yes.
Someone else with a title for this painting?
Well, I can say it's I want to stand. It can be a sentence, right?
Can be a sentence also, yes. Why not?
I want to stand.
Someone else?
Oh, and one more, black sheep.
Sheep. Okay. I can. Who is the black sheep there?
The one in the middle who's being persecuted.
Okay, I thought that someone feels like a black sheep and someone said that there is a black sheep here.
Oh, yeah, on the canvas. That's what I meant.
On the canvas, okay, a black sheep. Okay, there. So, come back to my camera. Okay, this is an abstract painting of mine. Everyone already understood that. But how abstract is this? Since everyone gave a name to that painting, everyone could feel some feelings of the painting, but you are also projecting your own feelings for the painting. Means there is an interaction between you and my painting. So a storm, maybe Saikat saw there a storm, something like a storm that we have in this our meeting discussion. Priya was a little more analytical and subjective and only calls to that artist. Prakash, sorry for the mistake on your name, but you said evolution, right?
Yeah.
Evolution, okay. So maybe you consider some transition from the realism to the abstract painting. But for Devayani, I stand, okay, but it's not very difficult. I understand why she said that title. And what I want to say is there is an interaction between abstract painting and the observer, the beholder. What I really do, I create an onirical and visual expression image. I don't really care if it's abstract or not. I know that naturally it is categorized in an abstract expressionism or something like informal art. But I know that you all saw some objects, saw some figures, saw some expression of the brush, of the pouring, of the gestual and creation of the painting was observed by all. You don't need to see a movie or feel or imagine something of this painting. So what I want to say is we cannot categorize everything around us. What we have today is a contemporary art. I can use some objects for my paintings, like you can always use some abstract forms, shapes, or meaning for a realistic painting. And there is always that problem that for some way you can say that this is stupid or meaningful or meaningless. Because what you have only a discussion of styles, of preferences. We can never be away of the judgment of a painting gives to us and the judgment that we give to a painting. This is only about psychology, sociology, social environment, social education, and these socio-demographical factors that we all live in and we all as methods until now. And not that everyone the speech is only about their selves. Sometimes we try to stay away from ourselves, from our own subjectivity, and we try the social objectivity. I think that probably who studied arts knows what means the social constructivism, also in the mental disease, the psychopathology. We also have the diagnosed statistical mental, that is the book with all the mental disorders. When too longly is used to passing the years, and the book always rise is the number of mental disorders. So what we have today is a social constructivism of the arts. There is the joke, there is the funny, there is the copy, there is also the originality that everyone can contribute for his art or for the heart of the world. I would like to imagine that in Romantica, all the artists, since from the realism, since from the conceptual arts painters or artists in this case, is contributing for better world with more openness, and also contributing for the status of Saikat, that is our curator right now. And is that I can finish with that sentence. We are always contributing for something. We'll better. I would like to suppose that.
That was good.
So we conclude. Good night.
Yeah, thank you so
Good night.
much, Romantica and
Thank you very
Saikat.
much.